back in the picture, or? Don't see Kylie there. Okay, is everybody up and ready to go? Okay, well, we'll move to agenda item 4.2, proposed tree removal, 1 Shepherd Road, Taupō. We have Andrew Moore, please, to set the scene. Thank you, Andrew.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning. I'm happy to take the report as read, and I've got Greg Hadley here with me also. We're happy to answer any questions that councillors may have.
Yeah, we'll take the item as read. Just wonder if are there any questions from the members. Obviously, there's been ongoing discussions with the people at 2 Harvey Street, so I understand, obviously, even though the trees were planted by the owner of 1 Shepherd Road, they do come under the tree and vegetation policy for management purposes.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. Are there any points of clarification by members of the committee?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I may, isn't the vegetation policy in regards of trees on berms? I'm not sure whether this is described as 1 per property, where this one's 4. So is it on the berm, or is that counted as part of the reserve where those trees are? So does that berm policy come into effect?
So through you, Mr. Chair, it's actually it's a remnant piece of road reserve, so it's on an intersection of Shepherd Road and
I know where they are.
Lake Terrace. So it's all classified as road reserve, and don't really see it quite in the same context as a berm in a residential street.
So the policy of 1 per property may not come into account?
Correct. And there's these copper sheens, but there's also other plantings on there, as we would often do on a street intersection like that. We may have amenity plantings there.
Okay, thank you.
So it doesn't have any implications around, obviously, erosion policy. Obviously, it's not encroaching, or in terms of impacting people's access or anything in terms of the normal road encroachment policy. So so it just comes under, it's basically being treated as a reserve, Greg.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, okay.
Councillor Williamson.
Thanks. Hi, Ewan.
Yeah, look, I had a look at it, and I suppose if I were the neighbours, I'd be a bit concerned, but also just the tree itself, it does block a bit of vision there, and I do wonder whether we should be looking at doing some work to that area. Yeah,
obviously, thanks, Ewan. With respect, obviously, the concern, well, there tends to be some focus on four copper sheen trees. Is there any advantage or capacity or willingness to actually do any pruning of the other vegetation that might mitigate some of the concerns, or not? But maybe the same reason given by the arborist, by doing it, you're compromising the integrity of the trees and forming ongoing maintenance. But if that was a possibility, it might help to mitigate some of the concerns with the people at 2 Harvey Street. I'm not too sure. Any comment on it, Andrew? Or?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I was dealing with the residents of 2 Harvey Street. So we did sort of do an assessment on that section. We removed some trees there that we thought were going to cause a problem in the future, and also trimmed the tōtara to just keep its height so it can bulk out, but we want to control how high it gets. That's all of we cleaned out a whole lot of flax and so forth. So I think we, just purely from a maintenance perspective, felt that we'd done everything we needed to there, and we're sort of happy with the site. The Capuchins, the problem with them is that they are one of the Leptospermum family, similar to Manuka and so forth. They don't take to trimming very well. They don't have those epicormic buds that will shoot off again. So once you cut back to hard wood, that's what you're left with. So they're not really a suitable tree for trimming. It would be, if they got to a point where they were obscuring vision, I think we'd be removing them from a safety reason. But they didn't sort of trigger that when they were looked at. And I think from the residents' concerns with views, the trees that are going to obscure the mountains or are beginning to obscure the mountain view now and are going to get potentially bigger are there's some palms that are actually on the private property, and it's those that are probably going to impact on views more in future rather than any of the other trees.
Yeah, that was my observation. I had another look this morning with the you call those palm, I call them cabbage trees or palms, the ones you're referring to. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, and they're on private property.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Well, do we have any other advice or words of wisdom for other members of the committee? Kathy.
If I could jump in through you, I understand reading the item, these were planted without council understanding or permission. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yes.
So how does that change our view of whether or not we should allow a planting we didn't sanction to be creating a problem? And I'm conscious I won't be voting on this. I'll abstain because I've already declared a conflict, but I just need to raise a couple of questions in that respect.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So, yes, they weren't planted by us and we didn't give permission to plant them, but our tree and vegetation policy states that they now become our trees and we manage them as per the policy. There is a portion within the policy that gives us the ability to remove them without any of the other reasons that we normally would remove a tree on health or impact on infrastructure. We can just say they're the wrong tree in the wrong place, if you like, and we could remove them based on that.
So could I follow that up? So are we going to say that they are, Andrew, exactly what you've just said?
Oh, no, through the chair, we along with our contract arborists don't believe they are the wrong tree in the wrong place. It wasn't organised by us, but it does provide some good amenity and view from Lake Terrace. So they have some value where they are in our mind.
Thank you.
Just through the chair, the question I was about to ask was, are they at their maximum height?
No, they would be expected to grow at least another metre and a half.
So that would be above where the palm trees are now?
No, the palms will still go beyond that.
Okay, so we're looking on the premise of the policy 1.3 planning responsibility on council land, and given that the council believes they're not inappropriate trees, we are back to the premise that we don't trim trees for the sake of preserving or maintaining views. So that's where we're landing, isn't it?
Yeah, through the chair, just in the report, I think the key thing to note is on top of page 7 there is the arborist has had a look at and believes the trees are moderately significant in the context of the adjoining neighbourhood streets and of greater significance when viewed from Lake Terrace due to their prominent position in the berm. So the arborist, and in line with the policy, are saying that they actually serve a landscape and amenity value purpose.
Thanks, Kevin.
Just through the chair, I've been involved in no previous discussions on this, and I have been through with this committee other times that we've looked at view shafts and what technical experts give us an opinion, and I can only go by what I see here. So I'm struggling though with the direction of questioning of my colleagues, because obviously there's more knowledge that others have. So I'm just wondering, the trees are healthy, they're appropriate. I'm just struggling as to why we wouldn't follow suit as we have in the past.
You said we're not.
Well, I don't know. I'm just wondering about my colleagues questioning. I'm just curious because I am just wanting to make the right decision.
No, I think we're certainly following the right procedures, I think, and in terms of actually the policy, and historically I mentioned with particularly around views and the integrity of trees, etc., and the amenity value. So this is obviously where this led to this recommendation, of course, on the advice of staff and arborists. So
yes, so thank you on that advice. I'll move the recommendation.
Okay. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Kathy. Okay, I'll just read the recommendation out first. That the Taupo Reserves and Road Committee declines the request to top or remove the 4 copper-sheen trees, that those spermum copper-sheen on the berm of 1 Shepherd Road, Taupo. We have a mover and a seconder. Take a vote. All in favour?
Aye.
Against?
No, I'll vote against it, John.
Okay, John, do you want your vote recorded?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
And I'll abstain if that can be recorded as well. Thanks.
And an abstention. Thanks, Kevin. Thank you. Well, thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Move to 4.3, proposed tree removal, Robinson Terrace Reserve. Andrew, again, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, slightly different situation with this tree in that they're not offering great amenity on the reserve in the position that it's in. Met with the neighbour who is elderly and is having trouble managing the leaf litter. My recommendation is really based around replacing it with kowhai trees further into the reserve where they won't impact on the neighbours and essentially will provide greater amenity to the reserve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Through the chair, maybe Andrew, if you can just explain what an advisory plant under the Waikato Regional Pest Management Plan means. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. Yeah, so basically they're a plant that is considered to be providing, to be causing an environmental pest, but the size and magnitude of them is such that they can't be actively sort of targeted by the regional council. So their advice to landowners is when able, it's best to remove them to prevent seeding and spreading of them. So yeah, silver birch, Betula pendula, they are becoming more of a pest, particularly through some of our stormwater gully systems. So yeah, we are trying to remove them as they come up. But this is an example of one that was obviously planted as a specimen tree for the reserve at some point.
Yeah, but that's obviously take all that on board. This is not impacting the infrastructure, though, is it? But that aside, the Poly 3.2 does give mitigation for supporting removal of it. I understand that. So, Kathy.
Yes, thank you. Just through the chair, if this recommendation was accepted, how quickly will the kowhai trees be planted in their place?
Through the chair, we'd probably have a couple of weeks before our contractor could remove the existing tree, but the kowhai trees, we have a number here in the yard at the moment. So certainly within the next couple of weeks, we could have them positioned closer to the playground on the reserve.
Are they positioned? Would they be positioned in such a way that they would actually create a shade for the playground?
Yeah, through the chair, yes, they'd be to the northern face of the playground, so they would cast some shadow over there. My thinking was because there's one existing, quite a nice specimen within the neighbour's property. We'd plant them so that they kind of create a little bit of a grove and encourage bird life.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
I'd move the recommendation, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Boddy. Do we have a seconder, please?
I'm happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Guy. Okay, we have a recommendation here. The Taupo Reserves and Road Committee agrees that the silver birch tree, Petula pendula, on Robertson Terrace Reserve adjoining 24 Kaunihera Drive be removed and replaced with 2 Ko-Fi Sophora Tetraptera. We have a mover and seconder. All in favour?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Thank you, Andrew, once again.
Thank you for that.
We move to 4.4, Taupo Town Centre Concession Space Design Guidelines. And we have Travis introducing the item. Thank you, Travis.
Thank you. You will get, through the chair, you will get Ian presenting this
Ian.
afternoon, which we've just snuck into. We will, through the chair, we'll take our paper submitted as read. We do have a short presentation with me. I have Travis and Fraser just so that we can cover any questions, and we have other members such as Julie online here so that we can cover where we go. First thing, I'll just take us on a quick ride through of the current Roberts and Lower Tongariro space. If you'll just bear with us till we get technology.
So through the chair, it's only one video and about 3 or 4 slides max. And it's just to paint the picture because we know it's quite a complex little paper. Thanks.
Can everyone see what's on screen?
We can, thanks.
Cool. So it obviously starts down the eastern end of Roberts, outside Bailey's. This was done about 3 weeks ago, really at the peak of the COVID, when we had very few people. So you'll see I'm under the veranda there. It's very mixed space where people have utilised, I guess, what they've chosen to as businesses. They've used what they can. Dixie's, we're just going past. They have the one legal licence to occupy under the veranda. Real mix of chairs. Clearly the clear space through here where there's no licence to occupy, concessions through that space. And then we kick into the western end here where there is a real mix of what businesses have chosen to do and utilise the veranda and indeed their concession spaces. It's extremely constrained at present. Remembering this is actually a very quiet morning, so depending on the service offering, at times of the day it gets even more constrained. I'll just let it run up Tongariro a little bit. Obviously Waterside are more an afternoon, evening enterprise. And then Lower Tongariro, which shows nothing at the moment. We do know some of those businesses take the opportunity in the evening to utilise that space under the verandas. And there's chop it up there, Travis. Cool. So just a little bit of scene setting. We've now got a really short presentation. Through there. So
just to confirm, can you all see the presentation up on
No,
screen?
Travis, we're still seeing the video, mate.
Okay, cool. I will deal to that. Can you see the presentation now?
Awesome, thanks.
So the milked out background is the current design that we're sitting on, which we will work through a little bit as the presentation goes. In yellow, and what these next few slides, this is very indicative. I don't want you to really drill down into the detail. It's just to help set scene. The yellow would be a clear 2.5 metre space beneath the verandas. This is the current license to occupy. So this slide gets really busy in a second, so hopefully we can keep up with this. Current license to occupy spaces. Area currently being utilised by businesses. And in blue, the two different shades of blue, I've got two different shades in there just to help demarcate the different concession spaces. That they're not meant for any other purpose there. And the yellow is where we're working with businesses at present, and they've given a desire for parking. So that starts to give you a little bit of context around license to occupy, current usage, and future potential concession space. And in theory, those yellow dots on there could, in theory, be used for concession space should those businesses choose to in the future. Don't worry about that. This is Lower Tongariro. It's really just pictorially trying to help us get our heads around what some of these concession holders may take up. It does largely fall to large umbrellas or overhead structures. We have chosen to, the guidelines are a balance, we believe. One end of the spectrum, you can be extraordinarily prescriptive. We don't want to go down that track. The guidelines sit there because we think the Roading Reserves Committee needed something robust, and it also is what the businesses need. They need clear guidance as well. So that's Lower Tongariro. It just gives you an idea of what the space could look like from the cover perspective. I've only gone for two images. This is our latest hero image. On the far left-hand side, just there's a lady there in a white and black skirt. That would be the 2.5 metre clear space. We're then looking straight down the guts of the concession sites. For the purposes of this, please ignore the tautoko structure, which is the overhead triangles. That's very schematic at this point. We're just working through the detail. So clearly the concession sites are what we're looking down the guts of. Just to the right, which kind of looks like a road, that is where vehicles would be permitted. And in this image, we have the arataki space, which is part of our mana whenua story out to the right. So that just starts to give you a little bit of a feel. That image obviously has umbrellas. So it's a nice clear night, nice maybe spring or autumn, probably doesn't represent the really inclement weather where some of the guidelines start to slip into place. I'm actually going to leave it at that. We'll keep it really brief, and through the chair, we'll slip into any questions that you may have.
Can you remove your screen share? Thanks. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, asking for questions.
Absolutely, John. Away you go.
At the moment, the area that is being considered is partially covered with overhead verandas. Some of them aren't. Will those overhead verandas or the out of the rain area still be available for the pedestrian and the persons walking on the streets?
Yeah, that is a key driver around. I guess we'll use the word enforce the district plan requirement, which is 2.5 metres of clear space for pedestrians. Correct. That is quite a big change from what we see now, where we want it going.
But just the last one with those triangles, you had the lady in the white and the black standing on that 2.5, which was not covered, hence my question.
Yeah, that image may well have been in front of, say, a KFC where there is no veranda at the moment. That's a different story. It may have captured that. Wherever there is a veranda, we now want that 2.5 metres being, I guess, returned to the public, and that is to actually encourage people being in there in inclement weather and finding businesses. So the image may have been a touch misleading, but yeah, clear 2.5 metre space wherever we have verandas, and where we don't have verandas, we'd like that the line to be joined, I guess, so it's clear.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, John, for raising a point. Well clarified, Ian. You know, it's really the ideal scenario to look after pedestrians and people with disabilities and things like that. So, thank you. Are there any other questions of Ian, Fraser, or Travis? We do appreciate the work you do with the consultation and communication with the businesses as well down there. Almost, I think, on almost a daily basis. So, it doesn't go unnoticed as well. So acknowledge that.
Yeah, so through the chair, just to add to that, to John, is we've got Julie is going to be starting the conversations with all of those customers over the next few days, working through them, and this guidelines will provide some guidance for those conversations if they are accepted in this format, which would be good for Julie to have that guidance. And to be fair, this is what the businesses have been asking for is some guidance on what it might look like. So the team have gone away and done that. And just before we answer, Kathy's got a hand up there. The key thing is we also had 2 meetings yesterday for those who weren't in this morning's meeting with elected members. 2 meetings yesterday, and we didn't have any major opposition to the guidelines and what was being proposed.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah. Kathy.
Yes, thank you. Just through the chair, I noticed that at the moment there is only one concession, which is Stixie Brown's, and then looking through the new areas, the proposed areas, obviously that will change the defined area for those currently with liquor licenses. Is that going to be considered as part of this concession process?
Yeah, I mean, Kathy, we see it. It's in essence all new, and you will have seen from the current license to occupies to what we have. It is a massive increase in potential footprint. So that tells us the current license to occupies aren't relevant to what is coming. So it will need to capture all of that on the way through.
It's just more around the ability for council to actually undertake the liquor licensing renewals for those defined areas in line with the timeline for the concessions. I just wouldn't. I'd hate to think that people were not able to operate because their liquor licenses hadn't come through.
Yep. So I've been speaking with Grant Singer, who is our liquor licensing officer for the last several months, and we've dealt with it a little bit on Tongariro Street. So essentially, the process in that is, in order to renew the liquor license, we have to have an updated lease contract that states where the leasable space is, and then the liquor license can be reviewed on those merits. Now, the fact that we're having the conversation with Grant early on is streamlining that process a little bit, but it's essentially define new lease space, create new lease contracts, and then use that to define the liquor license parameters, and those get dealt with on a case-by-case basis. But we obviously, because we're working so close, yeah.
So through the chair, just to add to that, Kathy, yeah, the team are aware. They're aware that we're going through there at, and causing some disruption in those areas. And when we do have the concession sites and we are finished in those areas, we're trying to make it as painless as possible to make sure that they can be up and operating as quick as they can.
Right, thank you.
Thanks, Kathy.
John, I just wondered if I could ask about, just trying to get my head around as you're walking through that video down past our office to Dixie Brown's, will he have to move some of his plastic awnings to comply with this new rule?
Correct, Yvonne, that will all be gone. It will be from the shop front out for 2.5 metres, which I think most of the verandas are about 3 metres. So it will be, most of that will be completely clear straight through.
So he'll have to move some of the existing table and chairs because they'll come in closer to the front of his shop.
Correct. Everyone will need to, as we saw, pretty much every business has tables in under that veranda. So as well as Michael, who has the current license to occupy, everyone else will need to move out of that space to make it clear.
Just Yvonne, just on that one, I had a conversation with Michael yesterday, and whilst it's fair to say that he is cautious about the money that he's going to have to spend in terms of the new structure, he's also really excited about what that will provide. And so yeah, he had that conversation yesterday and is relatively happy.
Excuse me, Chairman John, I have to leave, so I support the recommendation. So thanks, guys.
Thank you, John.
And just my other comment was with your meeting with restaurant brands, have they backed down also on the amount of car parking? Because they were talking, was it 16 car parks or something that they were pushing for? So the CEO has just backed down on absolutely everything. Is that correct?
Just need to caution, I think we're in public session, eh? And there's
We
some
are in public session, yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Gareth. Thanks for clarifying that with Michael Dixie Brown as well. So just some consistency. I think there's going to be an awesome outcome at the end of the day when it's all done and dusted, completed. So, and also, it just, thank you three guys and your teams, and also very, very comprehensive and self-explanatory agenda item. So, so easy to read. So thank you for that as well, Travis as well. Are there any other questions of these guys where they've got opportunity?
I've just got another one.
You want? Yeah.
It's just to do, I know you've got a couple of companies there who've just put in new umbrellas and put their front seating out. And I just sort of wonder how they have people been spoken to about that, because they've most probably had quite a bit of expense getting new umbrellas. I'm thinking of Jimmy Coops or something like that. Are we working on with those people? Because there will be another expense for them to comply to the new design.
So through the chair, I'll ask Julie to answer this one. But the key thing is, overall, we've had a general conversation with everyone in that space, and then we've had one-on-one conversations with a few of them. Okay, but that's certainly the piece of work that Julie's going to be doing over the next week or so.
So I can say that no one has come back to complain about the new requirement to have a 2.5 meter space. There have been some concerns raised about the ability to keep the umbrellas and the colored umbrellas that they currently have, which we did say in the meeting that this would be a shift over time, that those who already have just, and especially the Jimmy Coops, have just purchased their umbrellas, they can continue to use those until such time as they are ready to take the next step.
Thanks, Julie.
Yes, that was my understanding too, Julie. Thanks for that. It's not forced to do something immediately. Just with time and energy and money takes over time to have some consistency with the whole look down there. Okay, if we got the point where we're all happy, no more questions of Travis, Fraser or Ian, we have a recommendation that the Taupo Reserves and Road Committee accepts the design guidelines presented by the Taupo Town Centre project team and steering group. Do we have a mover, please?
I'm happy
to do that.
Happy to second.
Okay, thank you. All in favour? Aye. Against? Thanks very much. Thank you. That brings us to there's no item 5, no confidential business, there's nil. So before we close, I could perhaps ask Janice to offer a karakia, please.
Kia ora, John. I'll close our meeting for us today, thank you. E te maanga I ngā nahira pono e te toko turu tapu whakaungia mātou ki te arohanua paihiri te anō ki te rangi Māori I ngā wā katoa ko te maangai hei tautoko mai, ai anei, ake nei, ai.
Thank you, Janice.
Thank you.
Just the council come up with a karakia for so we might share the love with you in the future as well.
Oh, that'll be cool. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks very much for your attendance. I wish you all the best for the rest of the week. Thank you, and everybody out in Zoom and live streaming as well. Thank you for sitting into the meeting. Cool. Thank you.